Hello. We're back again. Welcome to this little show that I like to call Spill It. Spill It is a show where I get to speak to inspirational people and share some inspirational stories to connect people together, inspire others, and help people learn something new. This episode is, of course, no different. We've done 83 of these bad boys, and every single one of them is exactly the same. This is episode 83, Mental Health Matters, and my amazing guest, Nathan Paul, will be joining us very, very soon. So make sure that you stay tuned for that. When you come in here, there are three simple things that I ask for. Number one is to like, rate, and subscribe. Well, that's three things altogether, isn't it? Like, rate, and subscribe. Three simple things that I'm asking for, but I'm going to bump in there and ask you for another two more things. The second thing is to get comments and questions in rolling through right now, whenever you want, whenever you're feeling up to it. Just drop a little comment, come and say hi. If you drop a comment during the live show, that means that you are part of the conversation. We get to interact with your comment. It's as simple as that. If you are watching this on playback, make sure that you do still leave a comment, and we can go into the comment section and reply directly to you. And of course, if you are listening to this on the podcast, you can always drop me an email, marcus@spillit.uk, and I will read out your comments and your questions on next week's show. Last but not least, make sure that you hit that share button. Let's get Spillit far and wide and let everybody know that Spillit is back for season 3. It might be our final season. However, there are still a hell of a lot of episodes for people to catch up with, which is why I ask for you to share this far and wide. Share this on your wall. Share this on your friends list, on like for all of your connections, and wherever you are watching this, make sure that you have shared it and get this far and wide. Okay, well, I feel like I'm ready to spill some tea on a little thing that I call an ick. That's right, it is What's Your Ick time. Okay. Now, for those people who are just joining, who have not seen this section before, or just want a bit of a reminder of what an ick is one of those things that somebody does that makes you just go, no, I'm all right, thank you very much. Now, they might be the best person in the world. It might be somebody that you've got a really good connection with, and they do something and you just go, nah, no, I'm all right. You can now move away. You can go away now. We've had some really good, really cool icks actually that we've discussed so far, and I've got an ick for you this week. So specifically men, okay, this is specifically a men thing, because women, you're good at this. You're good at this because, and we'll go into it a little bit more. But for some reason, a man cannot put like Lipsil or whatever on their lips correctly. They cannot put like lip balm, or so basically when they've got like, when you got a bit of dry lips, you get some lip balm, or you get like a Lipsil thing, and it looks like a little lipstick, but it's in a little like tube thing, and then you put it on. Now, and I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if it's just because of the fact that like I've watched people put it on before. Whatever. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to put like your teeth on your just behind your lips and push forward, and then you put it on because it stretches the lips out and gets into all the little cracks and all that. So you just do that and you put it on. Whereas I saw someone put it on the other day, and I was like, and then I started going down a rabbit hole because suddenly there were more and more people like online who have talked about this. And men, they purse their lips and and it's just the faces that they make, and then with the lips, I'm just like, I can't. And now, especially as we're getting into the winter months, there's going to be more and more people doing it, and I'm going to be looking every single time of how they're putting lip balm on. So yeah, if you put your lip balm like this, it's an ick for me. It's an ick, and I'm not getting past it. I am not getting past it no matter what I do. So if you do that, please educate yourself on how to put on lip balm properly. And there's going to be so many people out there now who's going to be like, how do I do it? Do I put it on like this? Do I put it on like this? And like, they'll be questioning themselves. Put your teeth behind your lips, push forward, and then put it on. Simple. Simple as that. Simple. Don't do it the other way. We're going to have words. Okay. And that's enough of that. That was my ick for today.
Disgusting!
Okay, well, it is that time. I am about to bring out my guest. So please give a nice spill it welcome to my guest for this evening. It is Mr. Nathan Paul. Hello, Nathan. How are we doing this evening?
I'm very well, thank you. You okay?
Yes, I'm very well. Thank you very much. It's so nice to see you again.
You too?
It's been a while.
Yeah, quite a while. All the way back on episode 8. Some time ago now.
Episode 8. It seems so long ago. I mean, what? 2020, so 2 years. It definitely seems
before the world went mad.
Well, yeah, in more ways than one. It feels like it was a hell of a long time ago. To be fair, like a lot longer than just 2 years ago, and I think that's because so many things have happened during that 2 years. Yeah. What about my ick? What did you think of my ick?
I'll be honest, I've never even noticed it. I've thought about it, but now I'm going to see it everywhere I go, I can tell.
Have you got an ick? Have you got something that just puts you off?
I mean, I couldn't think of any that I've kind of come across, but I know that I'm always being told off about one of the things I do, which other people consider an ick, which is I put vinegar on every possible sandwich. So
on a sandwich, I was wondering what you was like, where you were leading with that then, but on a sandwich.
Yeah, my colleagues make fun of me because I will literally put vinegar on like a tuna sandwich, ham sandwich, beef sandwich, any kind of sandwich. I've got to have vinegar on it. Particularly meat. If it's meat, it's got to have vinegar on.
Oh no, yeah, I think that's an ick for me.
It's an ick for all of my colleagues.
If I'd have known this on episode 8.
Yeah, anytime I've got a sandwich in the office now, like, oh, what have you got today? Has it got vinegar on it? I mean, to me it's normal, but to them it's like, what on earth?
I mean, I'm gonna have to go into this a little bit further. So, where did this start? Like, is this something that's just kind of developed, or has this been something that you've done since you were little, or what? This isn't. By the way, this isn't what I wanted to talk about tonight.
I mean, I thought it was pretty normal. So, like, whenever I used to have a tuna sandwich, I used to put vinegar on the tuna, and I thought that was like a common thing. No. And then I was like, oh well, it tastes really good on tuna sandwiches, so it must taste great on every other type of sandwich. And then, like I say, it wasn't until my colleagues were like, what is your problem? Like, you're just mad. That's when I realized it was weird. So
yeah, well, it's definitely weird. And the fact that you put it on tuna and you've gone, oh, it tastes nice on tuna. I can't.
You know what? I would say try it. Try it on a tuna sandwich. Next time you have a tuna sandwich, try vinegar on it. It's a game changer. I think it's the best thing.
Right, well, I'll hold you to it, and I swear, if it tastes like absolute crap, I'm coming for you. So,
I mean, when you mix some mayo in there, and then a couple of splashes of the vinegar, golden.
Okay, we'll give it a go. I'm not promising anything, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments about Nathan's vinegar on every sandwich, is specifically tuna mayo. Please let me know what your thoughts are on that, because for me, that's it nearly made me walk out. I'm not going to lie. Okay. Before we start getting into our conversation for this evening, I wanting to play a little bit of a game. Are you wanting to play a game with me, Nathan?
I would absolutely love to play a game.
Let's do it. It is absolutely useless. That's right. It is absolutely useless time. So, absolutely useless for those who don't know or have just joined us or just want a bit of a refresh on how the game works. I'm going to ask Nathan 10 questions. Simple as that, okay? 10 nice, easy questions. However, because the game is called Absolutely Useless, what you need to do, Nathan, is that you need to guess the questions completely incorrectly, okay? Because you are the epitome of useless, all right? Now, for every question that you get correct, I am going to add 5 seconds onto your total time. The overall winner of all of my guests throughout season 3 will be the person who scores the least amount of, or has the least amount of seconds by the time that they've asked 10 questions. Answered 10 questions, sorry. There we go. Get there eventually. And then the overall winner will get a little Spill It bundle from me. Okay? Does that make sense? Do the rules make sense?
I think so. We'll give it a go.
Okay, so if, for example, just throwing this one out there, if, for example, I said, question number 1, the sky is, your response would be?
Green.
Exactly, and that would be a good, useless answer. Okay?
Right.
Nice. Right. Let's start this off, and I will count you down in 3, 2, 1. Okay. What is the name of the toy cowboy in Toy Story?
Buzz Lightyear.
How many legs does a spider have?
12.
What is the color of an emerald?
Orange.
What is something you hit with a hammer?
The sky.
What's the name of a place you go to see lots of animals?
The cemetery.
Whose nose grew longer every time he lied?
Frankenstein.
What is the name of the fairy in Peter Pan?
Greg.
If you freeze water, what do you get?
Fire.
What colors are the stars on the American flag?
Purple.
In the nursery rhyme Jack and Jill, what did Jack and Jill go up the hill to fetch?
KFC.
And lastly, where does the President of the United States live while in office?
The moon.
Nice.
Why is that so nerve-wracking? That shouldn't be so tense.
Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch KFC. I've just found my new favorite nursery rhyme. I absolutely love that. How did you think you did?
I have no idea because I still don't know if I understand the game.
Well, I mean, you did well considering the fact that you think that you didn't understand the game. So, okay, so your total time is 59.31 seconds. It's good. Under a minute. Well done.
Right.
Okay, how was that? Do you enjoy that?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, surprisingly tense.
It is. Okay, well, that was absolutely useless. Okay, so let's get into it. So this is not the first time that you've been on the show. However, this may be the first time that some people may have seen your face. So for those people, or for those people who just need a little bit of a reminder, I'm going to ask you one simple question. Who the heck are you?
So, I am Nathan Paul. I currently live in Lancaster, have done for the past 11 years. I was on the show on episode 8, talking about all things mental health, including my own experiences, and also talking about how my rugby club kind of helped me through some of those, that mental health issue that I had. And I guess that's why I'm back.
And it was actually such a good episode. It got such a good reaction from people as well, because not only quite rightly as you said, not only was it a case of we were talking about the importance of mental health, but the fact that you led in with such a strong story, talking about your own journey, and that's what people related to, and people could see everything that you were feeling, what you were saying, and the history behind it, and why it was important to talk about it. And I think that it was one of the episodes that people remember. And it's great to have you back to talk about it in a little bit more detail. So obviously, as we both said, now you were on episode 8, but what have you been up to since way back in 2020 when Spilett was still a little baby? What have you been up to?
Oh God, all sorts. Like, life has changed insanely since the last time I was on. So obviously, it was pre-pandemic. That all happened. At that point, I was in my now old job, working. Through the pandemic, I was working at home. A lot of struggles through the pandemic with mental health, in particular. Really kind of put a lot of things in perspective as well, because I couldn't train with rugby. I couldn't do any of that. For a long time, a lot of us could only go out of the house for an hour a day, if that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was spending pretty much, as most of us were, pretty much spending entire life at home, kind of locked away. But that time kind of really helped put things into perspective, I guess, and made me realize that not only did I need to continue working on, getting my mental health to a much better place, but it also made me realize what things I needed to change within my day-to-day life. So, for example, my work, at that point, my job changed quite dramatically during the pandemic and made me realize that actually it wasn't the place I wanted to be. So that was definitely something that I wanted to change. And so that was, and I did that June last year, I started a new job, which is great. An organization that I've wanted to work in for years. So it was kind of like a bit of a dream come true, really, in that sense. But, last year was a really difficult year for me as well, because we'd obviously all gone through the pandemic together and things were taking a turn for the better. Was getting back to rugby, which obviously is a massive help for my mental health. And then almost like a series of unfortunate events, really. So I had a few family illnesses to deal with, which took its toll on my mental health. And like I say, I got to a really good place. And then one by one, family started becoming ill. My granddad, who lived in Spain, he passed away, sadly.
Sorry to
and then I think it was just a month later, my dad, who'd been unwell, he passed away as well. But his was a strange one, because my granddad, he'd been ill for some time, and we kind of all prepared ourselves for it, and obviously a lot older, and we had, we were expecting it. As horrible as that sounds, with my dad, he had been unwell, but he'd gone home. Doctors were saying he was looking much better. They'd given him some medication to go home with. We thought he was on the mend, and he said he was on the mend. He felt better, and then one day I just got the phone call. Dad's had a heart attack. He's gone, and that was just it. Anybody who's lost a parent knows what that feels like. It's like someone's taken a cannon to your stomach. It just takes all the wind out of you and just changes everything. And like I say, I'd got to such a much better place with my mental health, even after the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic. And that was it just took me right back to to square one. And it was the same for the whole family, you know, like my sister and, you know, my aunties and uncles. It was so unexpected for all of us that I think none of us knew how to really process that. And he's young. He was only 57. So that was a huge blow, really. And even now, you know, almost a year and a half later, it's still raw. It's still really, you know, we're still going through the grieving process. And what was difficult for me was that I started my new job at the beginning of June, and he passed away 17th of June. Mm-hmm. So I was in a new job, and, you know, I'm really positive, you know, like I say, an organization that I'd wanted to work at for some time. And all of a sudden, you know, this happens, and I just didn't want to do any work. I just didn't want to work. I didn't want to be around people. You know, I took a couple of months off rugby, even though I'd only just got back to going. You know, and work seemed like the last thing that I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. But then I didn't want to, you know, I was also struggling with the idea of, well, if I don't work, then I'm going to be so far behind with this new job that I'm not going to recover from that either.
Yeah.
So a really difficult time, really tricky time. And as I say, still even now, you know, again, anyone who's lost a parent, they'll say the same thing. It's not something you ever get over. And, you know, think about him every day. So last year was, for the most part, an awful year, really awful year. But then in contrast, this year's been pretty great, in all honesty. Putting aside, you know, obviously the mental health in terms of like the grief and kind of rebuilding that side of things. So at the end of last year, middle of December, I started a new relationship, which is going really well. Somebody I'd liked for a long time before that. So very positive. That's still going strong. I've just last week got a promotion. So again, really positive, amazing. And I'm currently in the middle of moving all my stuff into my first house. I've just bought my own house for.
Oh wow! Well done.
Yeah, long time coming. Hence why I'm got the blurred background, because my house is like full of boxes. I'm trying to get the washing done before I move out. So yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. It sounds so corny to say that, but yeah, last 18 months has been insane. Yeah, for all kinds of reasons, both positive and negative. So
I'd like to stay on, if this is okay with you, obviously. I'd like to stay on the topic of loss and grief. Yep. I think that obviously during the pandemic there was a lot of talking around loss and around grief, because people were losing close ones, they were losing family members, and I think that, like, what I would like to express on this subject is that it doesn't matter how close you are to a parent as well. I think even if you didn't have that relationship, that you still have to grieve. And as Linda said in the comments, she's put time does heal, and that is correct. Time does heal. You've got to get through, but you've got to ride that wave. And grief affects us in different ways, no matter the relationship that you've got. So I last year was releasing my book. It was called A Little Bit of Happiness. It was about, no matter what you go through in your life, you can always find one little thing that you might be able to flip around and think, you know what, because of this wouldn't have happened. And because of, if I didn't go through this little subject here, then it meant that I wouldn't find who I am later on down the line, etc. And it's all about finding those little bits of happiness. And so at Christmas last year, lost someone who, paternal side, who was never in my life, never. But that still did a lot of internal damage to me, and made me question a lot of things. And it got to a point where I was like, well, I need to bring the book back. I already sent it off, ready to get published and all that lot, and I brought the book back. I requested it back because I wanted to write a full chapter on loss, on grief, and to talk about the fact that you don't necessarily need to have someone in your life constantly to grieve. You can still grieve even if that person was non-existent, if you will.
Yeah, and with that kind of situation, it might not necessarily be grieving the loss as such, and grieving the what could have been. And I mean, I was incredibly close with my dad, but afterwards, part of my grief was the what could I have done better? What did I do wrong? Exactly that. What could have been?
Yeah.
And like you say, I don't think it necessarily is about what relationship you had when it comes to grief. A lot of it is the what could have happened. If he was still alive now, he'd be helping me move in my house.
Yeah.
He'd be congratulating me because I've just got a promotion. He'd be meeting my boyfriend. He'd be involved in my life, and I know that's not the same for everyone, but you have them questions, and I think that's a large part of grief. It's that what if, what could have been, what could I have done differently?
Exactly. It is the questioning side of things, and there was a lot of like from my side, there was a lot of, well, I wonder what would have happened if he was part of my life, and then it was like even down to a point where I was just more thinking to myself, well, I'm like as an adult, I had that decision whether I wanted to reach out or not, and that decision has now been taken away from me. I no longer have that choice. And so therefore, if, for example, something came along down the line and I thought, well, you know what, now I can get in touch because I'm in a better place, or I'm wanting to get answers and things like that choice is gone. I don't have that decision to make anymore. And the removal of that choice, that was what really, really sent my head west for a long time. I was actually in a very bad place for a while, because of what I was experiencing, and I was lucky to have so many positive people around me to help me through that. And as I said, with Linda commenting a bit ago, just saying time does heal. What advice would you give to someone if they are going through like a loss or a grief and they are struggling to maneuver through it?
I know it sounds like such an obvious thing to say, and people are probably like, well, duh. But I think the best thing you can do is remember the good times and remember the positives. And, even if that relationship wasn't particularly great, you said it a minute ago, those little moments of happiness. And there was a lot when my dad passed away. The first thing I said was I didn't do enough. I wasn't a good enough son. But then after a little bit of time passed, I found myself just remembering little bits, little moments between us, which meant so much, even though they were so small and so, to some people, so insignificant. And as time went on, I started finding that those regrets and those questions and all that, those worries that I had, they were becoming more, they were turning into those little nuggets of happiness. And, like I said, moving house, one of the great things about moving is I've been, going through all of the stuff in the house, and I'm finding little bits, and they just remind me of him. Or, like I found like a childhood teddy, and it's like, it's in all the photos that I've got with him when I was younger. And, or, finding things that he bought me, or just finding photographs, and they all just bring back these little memories. And I think, as I say, I think the best bit of advice is focus your time and your energy on the good stuff, because, what can you do about regrets? What can you do about those what ifs? You can't do anything at this point. But I also say, and it might sound a little bit deluded or a bit weird, but talk to them. Like, I'm not religious, but I've got a big frame photo of my dad in the living room. I talk to him a lot, And I just about anything, I'd really rubbish day at work today, Dad. Wish you were here. We could talk about it. I've got a little voicemail clip on my phone, which I play now and then when I want to hear his voice. It's just little things, and just taking joy in those moments, or those memories, I guess.
Yeah, somebody said to me to write a letter and write down all the things that I never had chance to say, and it would never have to go anywhere. It would never have to be read out loud or anything like that. It was just a case of me just writing down the letter, writing down my thoughts and my feelings on a letter, and with that, it helped me quite a lot. Actually, I wrote down like my thoughts and my feelings, and it was like I was writing to him. But it wasn't going to go anywhere, and he wasn't going to listen to it, or he wasn't going to read it or anything like that. But for me, actually, I managed to get through a lot of what I was challenging myself with, or what I was like, how I was stepping in my own way, if you will. I was basically telling myself that I wasn't allowed to feel what I'm feeling. I'm not allowed to feel this grief because obviously of the relationship that we had, or lack thereof. Linda's also commented as well, saying, I still talk to mine. I have a Robin. I always say, hello, Dad. And that's right. She every time that she sees a Robin, she says, oh, that's my dad.
That's right.
And it's these little coping mechanisms that we do and that we cling on to. And you were right as well, that you've got to cling on to those little tiny memories, those things that brought that little bit of joy, even if it was something so small, like during. When you look back, you can really heighten the feeling. And when we fixate on these feelings, they do take over. So if you do fixate on the bad, then that does take over. It gets worse and worse. And you start spiraling out. Whereas if you start focusing on the good and you start really remembering the good things, naturally you will start spiraling upwards, and you start looking at more positive things and more things that made you laugh. And you start remembering lots of little things that may not have even been that funny or that much of a memory there and then, but because you are looking at it in a more positive way, it means something more.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right, 100%. And thank you for sharing that, and for yeah, it's very appreciated. With regards to, obviously, we were talking about originally when you came back on episode 8, when we were talking about mental health, and of course everything you've been through has more than likely done a number on you with your mental health. Let's talk about mental health in general, and why it's important to just have a bit of a check-in with yourself. And even though you might be going through something, it's always important to keep an eye on your mental health.
Yeah.
So talk to us about that.
Yeah, I mean, first thing, it sounds so obvious, but everybody has mental health.
Yeah.
It's not just everybody has physical health, but everyone has mental health as well. And everybody needs to look after themselves in that respect, and you hear the analogy all the time, don't you? If someone broke the leg, they'd go to hospital. Well, if you're having an issue with your mental health, then why would you not go seek help? Mm-hmm. And funnily enough, I was actually on mental health first aider training today.
Oh, nice.
And one of the things they said in that is, there is still stigma, which is so unusual when you look at where we are in 2022 and how far we've come in so many ways. You wouldn't think that there's still a stigma around it, but there absolutely is. And it's just getting over that. I know it sounds such like a blasé thing to say, getting over it, but I think we're in such a great place right now where mental health is so prominent and people are so on the ball with it these days, that I think just reminding yourself that actually going to have that conversation, going to talk to someone, where even if it's just a friend and confiding in them, it's such a big step, and you're not going to be judged for it. You're not going to be, discriminated against. It's really important. And I think many people think of, your mental health journey, if you will. I hate using that word journey, but if people often think it's quite linear in, you know, oh, I've got a problem, I'm going to go get it fixed. That's the end of it. It's really not. It's not. It's you know, not to sound pessimistic or anything, but it's such a complicated journey, and it changes for everybody. And for myself, you know, I identified that there was an issue, and I did a lot of work to try and rectify that. And I got to a place where I thought, great, I mean, you know, I'm so much better, and it just took one incident to bring me back round again. And rather than thinking, oh my God, I'm here again, what am I going to do? I kind of thought, well, I've done this before. I've pulled myself out of this. And even now, you know, like all the positive things that are going on, I still have days where I'm like, you know, I just don't want to get up. I'm so fed up. And you know, you can tell if you've gone through, you know, depression, you can tell what the warning signs are, and you can tell when it's coming back. And I still get those, and I still get the, you know, the horrible thoughts that no one wants to have. But it's understanding that that's what mental health is. That's what it looks like, and it might not look the same for everybody, but it's just taking it slow and taking it patiently as well. And that's something I've learned, is to be patient. You know, I'm one of these people who wants everything to be sorted straight away, and you know, everything's hunky dory the next day. But that's definitely something I've learned over the past couple of years, is that patience, and that, you know, one foot in front of the other every day. So yeah, I think it's a very complicated thing for a lot of people, but I think as long as you're actually starting that process and starting that journey, I think that's the important thing.
I think you're right with the things that you were saying with regards to how people identify with mental health. And this is one thing that I talk about whenever I do talks with regards to mental health. The first thing that I say is, just to let everybody know, we all have mental health. It's like a bar, if you will. You have good mental health, and you have some not so good mental health, and then we have poor mental health. It's not a case of, oh, I'm suffering with mental health. You're not suffering with mental health. You have something that has affected you, that has made your mental health go across the bar, if you will. Now, I know that obviously it's a very big, you know, spectrum, and it's not like a linear bar. However, the way that I look at it is that you've got down here is poor and up here is good, and there are certain things that will happen throughout your life that will make you go from good, and then it will tick down to bad and whatever. And when we do recognize that we are being affected by a certain situation, that is us realizing that we are moving down a little bit and a little bit further and a little bit further. And the good thing is that some people, the majority of people, are able to recognize that straight off the bat and change certain things about their life, or change certain ways that they are thinking or feeling, etc., to be able to move forward. Unfortunately, there are people who don't recognize that, and then they move down. And then there are other people who, unlike yourself, where you can recognize some of the things and you can go and speak to someone about it, they will wear that. Like, they'll just go, oh, well, it's just mine. It's just this. Or it's just, oh, it's because I'm suffering with depression. Or it's because of this. Or it's because of that. And it becomes more of an excuse without in their minds, the need to step up and go, I need to speak to somebody about this. I need to seek further help on this. And I talked about it on a couple of weeks ago on my Friday episodes, that there are some people who will have signs of, say, for example, depression, and they will just then continue through life, and they'll just go, oh, it's just because of my depression. Oh, I'm feeling a little bit sad today. It's because I'm depressed. And they don't seek further advice, and they don't go and see someone to talk to, and they just think, well, it is what it is, and it's not. And we're not supposed to feel like that. We're supposed to be up here. We're supposed to be feeling good in our everyday. And yeah, okay, some things might knock us down a little bit, but we should be able to climb back to this good part. And I do, and unfortunately, I am only human. I do get frustrated with people who don't do that step to help themselves and to realize that they can't be stuck.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think a lot of the conversation around mental health, it needs to be about ownership and empowerment. So empowering someone to take ownership of what's happening to them, because I could talk to anybody about mental health, and I do. But my experience is my experience. It's not a one size fits all. I can't go, oh, well, I did this, that would suit you to this. That's not how it works. But I think empowering someone to have those initial conversations is where it starts, and that's why I do quite a lot in terms of so I'm safeguarding officer, look after membership well-being at the club. I've been on my level 3 mental health first aider today, and that's because I've been through this, and I want to give people that empowerment and give them the resources, give them the tools and the confidence to start those conversations and yeah, just even if it's just, oh, I'm not feeling great today. There's so many things that you can take from that, and so much that you can open up from that little sentence. I'm not feeling great today. Oh, right. Well, why is that? Okay. Well, how are you feeling today? Why you, what's happened to make you feel this way? And I think sometimes that's all people need is rather than you going, oh, that's a shame. All they need is you to go one step further.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting them to that stage, I think there is a lot of, ownership needs to be on them. But I think the rest of us have a bigger role to play as well in terms of teasing out what actually is a problem. So so you can signpost to the right places, or give them the right advice, or, give them the right number to call. So I think that's a conversation everybody should be having. And I know not everybody does, and it's not going to happen anytime soon. But I think that's the wider narrative that we need to be seeing is, yes, you need to own your experience and you need to own what's happening to you, but we all need to be making that a lot easier and a lot safer for people to be talking about.
Definitely. I think with the populace more and more talking about mental health and making it very apparent that it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to reach out and speak to someone if you are feeling some type of way, in like when you wake up or during the day or in the evening or whatever. And it's okay for people to say, you can always reach out to me, you can always pick up the phone if you're going through something. But we need to be more equipped with having those types of conversations. And where do we lead that conversation then? Quite rightly, as you just said, like if you was to ring up to me and I was just to say to you, oh yeah, that's a shame. Like it's not having the right effect. It's not going down the correct path. And we need to be, if we are going to be reaching out to people or allowing people to reach out to us, or if we are going to be promoting mental health and promoting looking after ourselves and looking after our mental health, or promoting the fact that I am somebody that you can reach out to, we also need to be prepared to have those conversations and lead them in the right direction. Otherwise, that other person who has reached out to you is more vulnerable, and you could potentially put them in a further bad way if you don't handle that conversation right. And so you have got to be careful of who you do reach out to, but at the same time, we do have to be more educated. You yourself, so you have just got done your mental health first aider today. If people were wanting to find out any more information or any more resources to be better equipped to have these types of conversations, where could they go?
There's so many resources. Like I think people kind of think, where do I go? There's so many, and just being on this course today, just in terms of anxiety, there are so many resources out there, some of which I've never heard of before. But I mean, the ones I would definitely encourage people to look for is Minds Matter. I've mentioned it the last time I was on. Lancashire Mind, particularly for this area. NHS, we give the NHS a lot of stick, but actually, they've got amazing resources, and And it's not all doom and gloom, and it's not all, like 6-month waiting lists and all that lot. There's so many places you can go to look for advice. And if it's a case of someone being, quite vulnerable and they're being in a quite a severe position, Samaritans, GP, NHS 111, all these numbers, all these people you can contact, and they won't just leave you hanging. They will get you help or get you information. And even if you're ringing on behalf of someone else, if you've got to worry about someone and you think, I need to get more information for them, again, there's so many resources. And if anybody had a question about that, anybody who ended up watching this had a question about that, then, reach out to me. I've got loads of contacts of resources that I can offer out as well. So
I think that's the difficulty, isn't it? I think if you are going through something that's quite severe, I think people are more scared of reaching out to places like the Samaritans and places like that, because they feel like they are either that they think, oh, I'm not that bad. Because the one thing that you think of when you think, you can contact the Samaritans, you automatically think, oh, suicide, like straight off the bat. But it's not just suicide that they talk to. Sometimes it's just somebody on the other end of the phone when you need someone to talk to. And they are trained professionals to be able to have that level of conversation with you, to be able to just pull out and draw out what you are feeling. Sometimes when you do just need someone to speak to, you can just reach out to places like that. And it doesn't have to be that you're in a very vulnerable state to a point where, it is that severe. It could just be that you just need to reach out to someone just to talk through something that you're feeling or something that might have happened that's put you on a down spiral, and just to get a little bit of advice or help or just support through that, especially if you feel as though you can't reach out to your support network that you've got around you. One of the things that I mentioned a couple of weeks ago was there are certain businesses out there, because obviously mental health is in the forefront of people's minds at the minute. There are many businesses that have reached like an external company that have a support line for employees to contact if, for example, they are wanting some further support and things like that. So my work, for example, they have a helpline that you can contact, completely external from the actual business themselves, and it's completely private as well. Like it's all locked down. You ring them up and they go through a consultation process, and then they say, okay, so we're going to recommend that you speak to somebody, blah, 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 like this many times a week or this many times a month, and then we're going to have another catch up and see how you are. And they can do referrals and everything. And there are many, many companies out there that offer that level of support. So if you are a little bit hesitant about contacting these big organizations, see what your workplace offers you as well. And it is completely confidential, things like that as well. Your work people, your work colleagues, your boss, your manager, they're not going to find out that you've reached out to someone just to have a bit of a chat about how you've been feeling. And it might literally just be a case of, like, for example, for myself, I lost my dad. I wasn't close to him whatsoever. He was never part of my life. Ever since I was a little baby, he was never part of my life. However, I was feeling something, and I did have to reach out just to kind of maneuver through these thoughts and maneuver through these feelings, just to make sure that I wasn't going crazy, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, any extra thoughts?
I guess like one of the really important things I would say is it's great to reach out, and I would encourage anyone to try and have those open conversations, but also know your limitations. Very few of us out there are going to be therapists or going to be medically trained. And so we can't really go beyond a certain point. And so I think signposting is so, so important. And I think everybody should have just the basic knowledge of where to signpost people to, because you never know whether someone's going to come to you and have with an issue. But you shouldn't be really giving them advice beyond, or contact the professionals, because what happens if your advice ends up in the worst case scenario, that person hurting themselves? So I would just say, reach out to people, have those open conversations, but also don't go beyond your remit. Like, it's nice to be a lovely person and talk to people, but there are professionals out there who deal with mental health, and they should be the ones doing that work, really. And the last thing you want is to be taking on everybody else's issues and finding that actually, as a result, you're also developing these issues, which
That's
is
something
something I've been guilty of in the past as well. I'm going through the worst possible time, and I've got people left, right, and centre asking me for help and advice. And after a while, it's like, no, I can't anymore. I'm absolutely drained.
Yeah. So I went through. So I did a qualification in coaching and life coaching, and then I did my mental health first aider course, and then I wanted to kind of integrate the two together, so it'd be a coach but within like mental health. And you've got to be so careful with things like that as well, because obviously you work with vulnerable people, etc. So what my idea was is that I was going to work with vulnerable people, not vulnerable, but sorry, people who have just got out like from the other side of a poor mental health circumstance in their lives, and then the coach was there to try and help them back on track, etc. Now, when I was doing my life coaching qualification, the one thing that they said in there was that the majority of life coaches have therapists that they speak to. And then same again, when I was like training or like doing all my counseling qualification, a lot of counselors have official counselors that they speak to. And the reason for it is because when you do talk to someone about their mental health, you do talk to somebody about how they're feeling, and you do naturally take on their problems, if you will. Not like you are going through the exact same thing, because that's impossible. Everybody goes through things differently, but you take on their problem, if you will, and you carry that, and you worry about that person, and you want to make sure that they're okay, and you give them everything that you can. And then you go and speak to somebody else, and somebody else is doing the same thing, and then you give them a little bit more of you, and then suddenly all of their problems become your problems, and then suddenly you need someone to talk to about all what you're going through. And it is a cycle like that, which is why therapists have therapists. Like that's what they have. They've got them for that reason. Yeah. So quite rightly, as you said, you can be that person to go, oh, hey, you know what? You ever going through something, make sure you reach out to me. I can help you through it. And that's brilliant. Firstly, as we keep saying, make sure that you have the correct signposts, you have the correct resources, you can lead that conversation in a positive way. And if it gets too much, make sure you move it elsewhere. You give them the support network, or you point them into the right direction to make them do the extra step, or you give them the resources. Because if you take on too much, you are not fully trained in. I mean, you might be, but the majority of people aren't fully trained to deal with things like that. Yeah. And the majority of people then don't have therapists that they can go to and go, oh, hey, yeah, by the way, I talked to 20 other people in my life to try and help them back on track, and it's just affecting me. Like, they don't do it, and then it's just a vicious cycle, and suddenly you're caught up in it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that was what are some thoughts around looking after our own mental health, especially as we're coming into our glorious winter months? Obviously, we all know that the nights drawing in, which pulls out seasonal affective disorder in certain people. People's depression starts rising. There are a lot of people on their own as well during the winter months, and of course, we're going through an economical crisis at the moment, with energy bills skyrocketing and very little support from the powers that be, let's call them. But yeah, what advice do you give people to look after their own mental health over the next few months?
I mean, I would never have said this several years ago. Before I joined rugby, I would avoid exercise at all costs, but I genuinely think exercise is really important. And I only joined the rugby team really because I was in a rut and I was a bit lonely, and I wanted something extra to do. But I genuinely think that was one of the best things I ever did. And I'm not saying everyone should go out and join a rugby team, but if you're finding yourselves in a bit of a rut and your mental health is flagging, maybe, then trying something new, going out and meeting new people, and you might find that you're feeling quite down and you're feeling low and you feel this, anxiety, depression, whatever it is. But you might find that actually by joining a new club or meeting new people, that actually you've got somewhere to go and you've got somewhere to vent those frustrations in a different way. And like with myself, when I joined the rugby team, I actually found that most of them have gone through the same thing, or they've been going through a similar experience, so I could talk to them about it. But it also got me out of the boring routine that I was in, so that actually my focus wasn't just on how bad I feel every day. It was I've got something to look forward to. So yeah, I would say exercise, or find a new hobby or a new group, whatever it is that interests you. And also just looking after your physical health. So like, again, I would never have said this years ago. Definitely kind of junk food kind of guy, but eating right, drinking lots of water, it all sounds so basic, but it actually has such a profound effect. And other than that, I'd just say make sure you're staying in touch with people, the people who mean a lot to you and who love you. And, the world's still a scary place, but, it sounds so corny, so High School Musical, but we're all in this together at the end of the day. I'm really trying to avoid that sentence as well, but that's it. We are at the end of the day. We're all human beings, just living on the same planet. So let's just be kind to one another and help each other out through the hard times.
Definitely, 100% agree. And for those people who want to see me break out into dance and song, I'm joking. Okay. Is there anything that we haven't discussed that you would like the opportunity to discuss now?
I think I've said everything, really. I think, like I say, the main takeaway, I guess, I would hope that people have is trying to break down that stigma, that barrier, and just if you're feeling low, don't just assume it's, I'm tired from work, or, I've just had a bad day. If it's persistent and you're feeling that way for a prolonged amount of time, then just reach out to someone. And it may be that the week after you feel absolutely fine, in which case, what harm has it done? Reaching out. It's done nothing other than start a dialogue. So I think, just being aware of yourself and looking after yourself and reaching out to someone.
Definitely. I think if you are repeatedly feeling some type of way, rather than just putting it down to whatever, maybe pull that thread a little bit and do some self-exploration and figure out what it is that is making you feel like that. Is it because somebody spoke to you in a certain way that doesn't agree with you? Is it that you have been staying up all night playing on computer consoles like for night on night? Yes, that will be a valid reason why you will be tired, but there might be other reasons attached to that. And the more that you pull this thread, the more that you question things, the more you can get down to the root cause of it. And of course, there may be somebody out there, friend, relative, family member. It could be somebody completely random that you just reach out to, whether that be through a helpline service or whatever. There will be somebody to help you get to the root problem. And once you've identified it, it's easier to move forward because you know what it is. And you know what to avoid in future. So if somebody wanted to reach out to you or reach out to some like a different network out there or whatever, where can people find you to reach out to?
I am on Facebook, so people can find me on Facebook, same name, Nathan Paul, or I am on Instagram as well, so at Nathaniel Paul, so I'm on Instagram as well. I mean, I do have a Twitter, but I don't use that one, so I'm not going to give that one. But yeah, and I'm sure if people want to ask questions or whatever, if they put them in the comments, I can answer them in there as well. But yeah, I'm around.
Of course. And what we'll do as well is that we'll put all of the links to your socials, if you don't mind, into the show notes as well. So if somebody does want to reach out directly to you and they don't want to put it on a public forum, that's completely fine. Don't worry, and you can either inbox it to yourself on your different social medias, or you can always reach out to myself as well on my socials, or spill it directly as well. And we'll always do what we can do to help support you and get you the correct resources and point you in the right direction as well. It'll help you find your little inner person that's screaming out to just be okay again. Okay? Right. Now, at the end of every episode, I give my guests the opportunity to give a quote. It's a little positive quote that they can end the show with, and it's personal to you. And I'm just wondering if you've got a little quote for us today, and why that quote is important to you.
Yes, I do. I do have a quote. So, that's mine. Happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if one only remembers to turn on the light. Very nerdy quote. I'm sure many people know where that's from. Let's ignore the controversy for a second. That is from Harry Potter. Albus Dumbledore says that. And I think it's just really pertinent to the conversation we've just had. You know, mental health isn't all scary in the dark. You're on your own. You know, there are people around you, and all it takes is that one candle just to light up the darkness for you, and that candle can just be a conversation between friends, or it's something much bigger. So, yeah, it just means a lot to me because I grew up with the books and the films. So, yeah.
Amazing quote. Absolutely love it. Thank you so much for sharing it. Again, thank you so much for being so open, so honest, so vulnerable with us as well. And just, it's like another repeat of episode 8 all over again, Nathan. So, yeah. David has commented saying very good quote as well. Linda has commented saying I love it. And then Claire has commented with a love heart as well. Claire is a massive fan of Harry Potter, so I'm sure that she will appreciate that quote as well. Honestly, from the bottom of my heart, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on way back in season 1, episode 8, and again now on episode 83, season 3. It's been an absolute pleasure, honestly. I am so grateful to have ever come across you and to hear your story twice now, and to keep you up to date on all your socials and everything like that. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I genuinely do. I wish you all of the best for the future and anything you come across as well.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me back. It's been really good.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to get emotional. Well, it is now officially time to say your Spill It farewell.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, like I say, thank you for having me again. It's been really, really great. And yeah, farewell.
I'm sure we'll be in touch. Don't worry.
Yeah,
in the coming months, anyway. So, but yeah, again, thank you so much for coming on this show.
You're welcome.
So I'll see you soon.
Thanks.
Bye. And there we go. Another episode done, and one step closer to that finale episode of Spill It as we start closing it down. And yeah, again, I can't stop saying it, but Nathan was just such an amazing guest to have on back in season 1. I think it was the first episode that we did that was covering mental health, and it got very, very deep. And afterwards, I came out and I thought, you know what, that was amazing, and that was a story that was deserving of this. And this is exactly why I wanted to do this with season 3. I wanted to bring back these guests. I wanted to bring back these stories because Spill It during season 2 was phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely loved it. But to be able to bring it back to its core, to be able to bring it back to what it was supposed to be about, which was regular people, normal people, just wanting a story to tell that will really inspire others. That's what made Spill It in the first place. And I'm so grateful that Nathan came back on the show to talk about mental health again, and to give us some personal stories again. Thank you. Yeah, it's been amazing, and it's been such a good ride. I'm like, we've got a few episodes left, yeah. we got another 17 episodes yet, and I'm gonna honestly, the closer we get to that, episode 100, the more emotional I'm going to get by saying goodbye to my guests. So before I start moving on and absolutely bawling my eyes out, let's talk about what's coming soon on Spill It, shall we? Let's move straight into that. Well, okay. Next time on Spill It is going to be on Halloween night. Wow, Halloween night. Yes, we are going to be speaking with Ryan Powell, who's coming back on the show to talk about what life has been like for him over these last couple of years. Now, so Ryan came onto the show back in season 1 when we was discussing his vision of helping children using media, using things like YouTube and social media in a more positive way. And now, obviously, because of the pandemic, with the growth of TikTok and things like that, it is now become an even more essential thing to have. Well, it'll be awesome to have Ryan come back on the show to talk about what he's been up to over the last couple of years and what his journey looks like now as well. If you want to follow me on all of my socials, then you can always reach out to me. You can find me everywhere where there is an @ symbol. It's at @that_Marcus W. You can find me there on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, all of them. Drop me a message, drop me a little like, drop me a little share, whatever you want to do, or friend request, whatever it is. Just make sure that you reach out to me. It's at @that_Marcus W. You can also reach out to me on my email. My inbox is always open. You can contact me at marcus@spillit.uk, and you can just drop me an email, whether it be about tonight's episode, the last episode, whether you want to talk to me about your future or what you want to find out, anything about Spill It. You can do that, Just do it. Just do it. Drop me an inbox. Just do it, guys. Just do it. Well, that officially takes us to the end. I just want to say a massive thank you for watching once again. It is an absolute pleasure doing this each and every week with you all. Don't forget as well, on Friday, we will be having my Tea with Marcus episode. That is right, it's every Friday. You get to have a little tea with me. It's a little 15 to 20-minute episode where I'm going to talk about what we talked about today, essentially. So you get a little bit more of a deep dive. But until then, it's over and out with us right here. So, without further ado, until we spill it again, it's bye for now.
Thank you for watching this week's episode of Spill It. You can catch Spill It live every week over on Facebook, YouTube, and now LinkedIn. You can also catch up with Spill It on the move on your preferred podcast streaming service. And don't forget to follow me on all my socials at @that_Marcus W. And for anything Spill It related, you can always get in touch with me by dropping me an email, marcus@spillit.uk.